So joining me today is Megan Meyer. Many of you know her from Motorsports Marketing Tips, from Megan Meyer Racing, from Randy Meyer Racing, multi-time NHRA champion. So one thing Megan and I talk a lot about is reporting and sponsorships. A lot of kind of what we've been building with Autofluencer and our reporting has come from conversations that we've had with partners like Megan. Megan, maybe share a little bit about how you use reporting as a driver. How have you used reporting? And then how maybe as a race team you've used reporting?
Yeah, good question. For me, I have been reporting manually for like almost 10 years. Because when I started doing social media, I wanted to know like what actually worked. Like I was just posting random stuff that was just on my camera roll, but like, did it actually get good engagement and good views? So I started to just track using a spreadsheet. And from there, I found out that like, oh, hey, like GoPro videos do really well. So then I started doing more of that stuff. So that led me to not only one like be able to get creative because it's like, oh, hey, like this worked. Let's try it this way. But then also, yeah, like being able to look at the numbers and then send that on to our sponsors. And so I would do like at the end of a month whatever company. So like NGK Spark Plugs was my title sponsor at that time. So I would send them just a Canva report with just screenshots, and all it was just here's how many likes and comments it got. If it was a video, how many video views it got. And another thing was something that I like to do is if any of the fans in the comments, if they ever said like, "Hey, like I use NGK in my lawnmower," or something like that, like I would just, screenshot that and include it. And I feel like that is what really helped renew and continue relationships with our partners, because even though the reports weren't like super detailed or like very design heavy or anything like that. Like it was pretty simple stuff, but I was just saying in constant communication because I was just like, "Hey, here's what we did for you this month online, just so you can see it," because they're not always looking at our social media. And if they sponsor hundreds of racers and different types of athletes, they're not going to spend all their time looking at every single post that they get tagged in or looking up all their hashtags. So it was just an easy way to stay top of mind with the sponsors. And yeah, that really helped when it came to having conversations about renewal because they're like, oh, yeah, like you've done all this stuff for us, even though we never had a certain, like, hey, you have to do 3 posts a month or anything like that. It was just like, sometimes it was 3 or 5, or maybe sometimes it was 10 or 15 posts, like, you never know. But, yeah, just, like, staying in constant communication with them and just being like, "Hey, here's what we did." I feel like that helped out so much with renewing sponsors.
And did you get any feedback? I mean, you kind of mentioned a little bit from those sponsors when you would send reporting, because I know most people don't. Right? And I've heard from some brands that they feel like sometimes if they do have to get reporting, it's like pulling teeth. So when you were proactively sending reports to people that weren't even asking for reporting, what was the reaction you would get to that?
Yeah, they were just, grateful for it because it's less work that they had to do, to go and do that research, or it was, maybe, posted really well, and so they already saw it, and then, like, just for them to be able to see the exact numbers on it because, like, it was just posted on our pages, and this was before you could tag a collaborator, so, like, they wouldn't be able to see the insights. So it just gives them a better understanding of, like, how many people are you actually reaching.
Right. And now fast forward to today, you still send reports to title sponsors and even though you're not actively racing as much, I know you had a shootout, you've done some things, but you are managing for the race team. How are you doing? Talk a little bit about the reporting and how you've been using Autofluencer as part of that.
Yeah. So it went from manually doing this with spreadsheets and multiple tabs and
Yeah, I've seen
multiple
your spreadsheets,
spreadsheets.
they're pretty amazing. We use them to, like, fact check our stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so and it does take a lot of time, like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie, because I would as I'd post, I would include it in the spreadsheet, but then go back, a few weeks later, and also it was cool to see, like, "Oh, hey, even though I posted this one picture or video or carousel, like, 3 weeks ago, it still grew a lot since then." So it's cool to kinda see, like, the lifespan and, like, certain posts if like something was going viral, how it would just like continue to grow and grow and grow. But yeah, so I went from manually doing all that to then using Autofluencer, which does it in seconds. So it's saving me so much time, which I love because I don't mind doing all the data importing and all that stuff and kind of analyzing the numbers and seeing what posted well or what fell off. But yeah, the fact that I can just use Autofluencer, it's already connected to my pages and to the Randy Meyer Racing pages. And it just does it in seconds for me. Like it's amazing because then I'm able to get other stuff done, like create more content.
You know, you work with a lot of drivers. Of the drivers that have come through your programs, what percent do you think I know you said, "Oh, it's not that bad to do the manual reports, it just takes a lot of time." Of those that have come through your program, they've heard you talk about how important it is to send reporting, even if just quarterly, right, to their partners. How many do you think actually take the time and actually do it once they get out of your program?
Yeah, I would say a very small percentage, because yeah, it is intimidating because it takes a lot of time. So I used to just give them the same spreadsheet that I use and had like a walkthrough video of like, okay, this is how you do it. Like you pull up this Instagram post, you look at these numbers, and then you type it into your spreadsheet, and then you move on to your next post, and you just do it one at a time. And yeah, so I think it was just so intimidating and overwhelming. I don't think racers understood how that can lead to a certain value because to them I think it was just numbers. And so then they're like, "Well, what do these numbers actually mean?" And so that's what I love with Autofluencer is that you have that earned media value. So could you explain like how you came up with that and how does that integrate into the reporting?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, earned media value is actually, we didn't come up with that. It is a pretty old school term around kind of the value that a sponsorship or something that's not native to the brand themselves that somebody else is getting them. It's dollars that a brand didn't have to spend in building an ad, or dollars they didn't have to spend in promoting an ad or doing a billboard, right? When I think of sponsorships and someone being a title sponsor, you then act as a little billboard, right? Then add on the social, right? And our main focus is the social side. You know, we'd love to do all the other things at some point, but right now our main focus is, what is the earned media value? What is the value of your social posts? What is the value of those likes and of those comments? And again, we didn't come up with that formula. So in influencer world or content creators or sponsorships, there's the kind of leading formula that gets used. It's usually some kind of combination of a CPM, which is a cost per thousand, usually around views or impressions, and then a cost per engagement. So in old school billboards and things like that, before social media, there weren't engagements, so it was one-sided. So it was usually an earned media value was only on the CPMs. It was only on maybe the impressions, like, "Oh, there was 10,000 people at the race," or 10,000 people saw this magazine, or 1,000,000 people saw this magazine, and so we're gonna say this was the earned media value. You divide it by 1,000 and multiply it by that CPM, which stands for costs per thousand. I know it's not CPT, but it uses an M for melee. I don't know why. I don't know who came up with that. I'm like, who came up with that stupid thing? Anyways, it is
Yeah.
a big ad lingo, CPM. But then with social, so anybody that measures social performance has then added in the new factor of cost per engagement. So engagements are likes, they are comments, they are shares. And the whole thought around that is if someone took the time to smash that like button, right? Or to leave a little comment, and then the bigger one would be share. to do any of those things, that means there was a deeper level of engagement with that piece of content. Because if you're just looking at impressions or views, all of the platforms now pretty much consider a view is just a few seconds in watching it. So, like, did it really mean that much? That's why you divide that by 1,000 and then multiply it by that CPM number. Whereas a cost per engagement, if they liked, if they commented, it at least registered a little bit. And so the value on that is a bit higher. But how we do it, our formula is we take the views, divide them by 1,000, soon to be impressions, but divided by 1,000, and then we multiply that by a CPM number. That is usually a bigger number. And it's usually anywhere, depending on the type of post, and I'll talk a little bit about that. It's anywhere between $3 or it can go all the way up to $30. So we do have some brands that put a $30 CPM on the posts based on the type of partnership it is. But then the cost per engagement is just all of the engagements multiplied by the cost per engagement, and we add those two together. And the cost per engagement might look little. We started a default of 75 cents, which at first you're like, oh, wait, the other one's $7.50 and this one's 75 cents. That seems so low. But what's important to remember is your engagements to those likes, comments, shares 75 cents, there's no dividing factor. So it's if you had 5,000, right, likes, comments, shares combined, that 75 cents, that's like $3,500 in earned media value, right? So it actually drives the number, the cost per engagement will drive that earned media value way more than the views or impressions. And that's why I think sometimes people think like, oh, it got 1,000,000 views. But if you divide 1,000,000 by 1,000, right, then that number shrinks, and people are always really surprised that it's the cost per engagement that will really drive the value, even if it's 35 cents is the factor that we're multiplying by. But that's really where the value is because that engagement means for the brand, there's a much higher likelihood that the person registered, right? And there is data that backs up that if I see a brand's name in your post, for example, and I follow you, Megan, then I am more likely to remember that than had I seen a post by NGK. Like brand content kind of goes in and out. And God love them, all the brands that are spending tens of thousands of dollars of like I had a brand tell me this year, like, oh, well, we're doing it in-house. We're taking a different tack this year. And we're not working with creators as much. And we're putting it all on our owned channels. Says the difference between owned and earned. So, like when creators post, that's called earned media, thus earned media value. But we see the data, the engagements when the brand does it themselves, even if it's bitchin', like even if it's really cool, the engagements are so low because purposefully the social networks want them to drop ads behind that. So not only did they have to pay for all of the production costs of doing it themselves, even if they bring an influencer in, well, then they have to pay that influencer to come in to help them with that content. But then they have to put ads behind it because Facebook, they don't want you as a business, right? Like they don't want you to get it for free. Whereas right now for creators, your communities are way more engaged. So, there is a lot of value there. So again, we didn't make up the number. Now, one thing that we do that's a bit unique and is we allow the brands to change the earned media value and the numbers that get used. And we've got some kind of innovations coming over the coming months. And then if a creator, we just rolled out this reporting for creators too. If you create a personal campaign, you'll be able to put in different factors for earned media value. So you can create reporting for your certain brand partners and send it to them with a custom. So if it's a partnership like a title sponsor, like we'll use gunk for you, you do a lot of content that is just about gunk, right? Like really clever pieces that are just about gunk. So for that partnership and those posts, you would have a much higher earned media value, like the factors you use. Like I would encourage you to use anywhere between a $10 to $15 CPM because those are basically, they're not commercials, but they're up there, they're very focused. So $10 to $15 CPM and $1 to $1.50 cost per engagement, like a much higher number. We have an agency that uses our platform and they work with big Fortune 500 companies. and their CPM is $30 and their cost per engagement is $3 per engagement. And one of the companies they worked with was like even told them, "Oh, thank you. That's conservative." We had another agency quote $60 CPM and a $6 cost per engagement.
Yeah.
So, when you think about it, right? And then this helps show these brands, and what we tell the brands is, "Look, this is what you're saving in not having to produce all this content yourself. You're not going to every race. What would it cost them to go to every NHRA race? Tens of thousands of dollars,
Yeah. I don't know yeah, like, if they have a vendor spot, I don't even know how much that costs, but yeah, I bet.
but then they have to travel. Then they can capture all the footage they want, but then they gotta edit it all, and then they're
Mhm.
gonna put it on a brand page where it's gonna tank. So, to us, that earned media value is so much more than just, what you would have paid in ads. It includes all the production, it includes all the travel, it includes all of those other things. So, again, we didn't make it up, but we have found kinda like what you've seen is now it puts a number in front of the brand. I think that's been a big challenge in our industry. What's the value of a sponsorship? And a lot of people are gonna pontificate on, "Oh, you could do this, you could do that." And you can still do all those things, but to your point, as a driver or a small team, that's a lot of flipping effort. Be like, "Oh, I am gonna take all the people that were there, and I'm gonna divide it by 1,000 and multiply." Whereas with social media, we can pull all the data instantly, you
Mhm.
know, and attach a number to it, and if the brand doesn't like it, then they can sign up for Autofluencer, and they can change it. So
Yeah.
so I know you've been sending now this earned media value to some of your brand partners. What has that reaction been from them?
Oh, yes, they loved it. They're very impressed. So I've got, my report pulled up right now. So I've just put in $10 for the earned media value, and then, the CPM, and then I did 1 for the CPE, and just for Q1, that's already over $100,000 for gunk in posts that we did. So we did between 4 pages, so my Facebook and Instagram and the Randy Meyer Racing Facebook and Instagram. That's 52 posts with an average of just over $2,000 per post, 5.35% engagement rate. Over 2 million views, which I know that's hard to get, and that's not average for us, but yeah, I mean, and so we always try to of course, over deliver on our sponsors. And so we always try to do, average is a 3 to 1 return on investment, right? And so with this, it's so easy to be like, hey, we're already a third of the way there. And that was just quarter 1. Like, imagine what we can do for the rest of the year. And so, yeah, so I love that it's so easy and it's very simplified too in the reports and in the dashboard, so it makes it really easy to just see because I love how you have like the bar graphs there, but then also you have the top 3 posts. And so it's easy to see, okay, these ones did well. So that tells me, hey, I need to recreate those again in the upcoming months because my fans liked those
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
algorithm liked them. So hey, like I know that works. So I'll just try and recreate that for next time and see if I can duplicate that.
And I think that's a really great point, Megan, that you bring up. And a lot of people are like, well, I could get that out of my Instagram insights. Do you? But the first question is, do you? Do you do it? Do you take the time to do it? So one kind of cool thing we do is we can set up email reporting, and we've had it for brands for a little bit where now they can get like an email every Monday of what were your top 3 posts the last week from all your different, sponsored drivers or creators or whatever. But you can set it up now as an individual, as a driver, as a creator, and it's right now totally free to drivers and creators. It won't be forever, but it won't be expensive though either. So to the point around like we designed this for this industry, we know some people have used some of the other tools that are sponsorship technology tools, and they are amazing tools. So I'm not talking crap about them, but like they also go after huge companies and huge athletes and so to them they're like, well, of course somebody could pay $99 a month. Like that's not that expensive. Hell yeah, it is when you are getting paid in product most of the time, and you're not actually getting real dollars and you're trying to fund a race team so that can be expensive. So, we will eventually have a charged model, but, we're still playing with what that will look like. But for the near future, everything is free to you, the driver. You can set these up. You can get emails yourself so that every Monday, here are your top 3 posts for this last month. Or you can set it up. Here are your top 3 posts for last quarter, or here are your top 3 for last month. So you didn't have to log in, right? Like, you can get it to remind you to be like, "Oh, shoot, I should log in and look at more." Like, it can be this reminder, this helpful reminder versus with Instagram or Meta or, and Sprout Social ain't cheap, so I won't even go there. I think it's $2.49 a month, but this tool of just being really helpful and showing you. And the other thing you can't do in Meta is, and forget, we can also pull TikTok and YouTube, right? So it's like you would have to do them all kinda individually anyways, but
Yeah.
Meta, you can't break it up based on partner. So, like,
Mm, yeah.
what were your top posts for partner A? They could be different than your top posts for partner B.
Mhm.
And it could vary based on the style you were doing, and there may be learnings to that can cross-pollinate your other partners, but certain products may have very certain things that engage and don't engage. If you're using engine products, those might be more engine sound videos, whereas, like, if you're using a cleaning product like a gunk, just playing engine sounds, like, doesn't really make sense, right? Like, there's not a correlation. So, yeah, I think that's a really great point is it's helpful for the brands, but it's also helpful for you to learn to move forward.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and I think another thing for the creators is, especially ones that are starting out and they're usually getting, affiliate deals, or if they are getting product in return, this can help them build up their confidence and know, "Hey, I worked with this brand and I did," let's say you did 2 or 3 posts last month. Maybe you generated $2,000 for them in the earned media value. Well, now you know how much your content is worth. So the next time you are approaching a brand or they come to you and they're like, "Hey, we'll just give you, a commission or a percentage off and it's worth, say $500 or something." And you can be like, "No, hey, look at this report I did for this brand with these few posts. It generated 2,000 earned media value, so
Yep.
I need to charge them at least $2,000." And so then you can get the ball rolling that way. And I feel like, yeah, like I'm so excited because it makes it so much easier for the
Yeah.
racers and creators.
And I think one thing too, for drivers, if you're thinking about, again, it's free to you. One thing we'll do, we just did a call with someone who I believe you recently met, Michaela from Trackside, and helping her set up, she manages some drivers and their sponsorships and stuff like that, and helping her set up reporting. So one kind of cool thing about us too is we'll get on the phone with you. Right? Like how many set like can you get on the phone with Sprout Social and ask them advice and how to set your things up? Will they send you like we sent you a reporting template built in Canva that you can just literally screenshot so it looks cute. You can add your words, you can add your recap, you can add what's next, but you can just screenshot our platform and put it in there. I mean, one day it'd be cool if we had like a template to design your own reports in the tool. Yeah, it's a ways out, but we're happy to spin up a little reporting template for drivers to help them think about it. I just had a call with a guy who he has done some ARCA racing and he's just partnered up with a new team and he's looking for ways to bring in like, when you're in ARCA or you're in NASCAR, you're in that world, the team does bring in a lot of their own sponsors, but he doesn't see the benefit of that necessarily outside of he can drive, but that doesn't help him necessarily pay where he's gonna stay. They're not always paying that, or when he's trying to do practice and he's gotta be in the city where the car is, they're not necessarily like, I found out he, like, slept on a futon in their shop. Like, and, like, if it flooded, it would flood, the shop would flood. This kid is, like, sleeping on a futon and, like, just so he could drive. And so he wants to kind of find some of his own sponsors, right, to bring on so that he has some money. Like, he
Mm.
even, in one of the cases, had to pay to drive the car. They charged him to drive, and so, like, For him, he's like, "I think I need to find my own sponsors, and I need to step up my social because that's where my value, because I can't put the stickers on the car or I can't say we're never gonna use it." So we did a whole strategy call and like, what's his daily driver? Do more content of your daily driver, and you do a great job of that, Megan, especially with gunk, of doing your daily driver. I think a lot of people forget about that in racing, and especially if your daily driver is a truck or an SUV. When you think about the number of accessories for those vehicles and things that you can be putting on it, and it blows open the world of sponsorships and partnerships, and or a lot of people in racing have power sports or they hunt, they like there's just all these other opportunities and ways. And to what you were just saying, I showed him how he can take past posts he's done and we looked through them on what hashtags he was using. I was like, okay, let's take this hashtag that you use in all these posts. And you can actually go back and edit the captions of posts and add in a hashtag to pull, because our tool automatically pull posts based on a keyword. So it doesn't have to be a hashtag or an at mention, but so we kind of came up with a little acronym that he would put in all of his instead of just his name, which looked weird. And so they would pull in all this stuff. And now he's got a little report with earned media value that now he can go to these sponsors and say, hey, in my racing posts, like the first 6 months of this year, I've done 32,000 in potential earned media value for a brand, because had you been my partner, you would have gotten that value there. And so, to your point, it's a way you can use it with future partners. And I hear a lot of people talk about like it's hard to get paid. It's because they don't know how to value it either. And for any brand who says like, "Ooh, I look at sales," you can't look at sales. A sponsorship, unless you really structure it right, and I've yet to see, I maybe one brand has truly sponsored a campaign to drive sales. They're not doing what I call a conversion campaign. They're doing sponsorships and partnerships, and that's like little billboards. Those are awareness campaigns, not conversion campaigns. So I would challenge any brand who's just trying to look at sales as an output and say, "Let's look how you're structuring your campaigns, and are you truly structuring a conversion campaign?"
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's always something that, like, I teach my racers is, like, when you are going into meeting with a potential sponsor, like, always try to find out how they measure success, so that way you know that you're doing the right things, so when it comes time to renew with them, you can be like, "Hey, we set a goal for XYZ and we did, this and this." But you gotta know what that is first, like, what are their KPIs before you officially start your sponsorship, because if it is sales, but then you don't know that, and then at the end of the year, they're like, "Oh, well, you didn't help us with sales, so we're not gonna renew with you." It's like, "Oh, well, I didn't know that." So, yeah.
And if you ever have a brand who doesn't know how to measure, send them to us. We can.
Mhm.
So if you do send a report to someone and do an introduction to us to that partner and they sign up, we will give you a commission for that. That is something that there is benefit for you. Not only do you get the reporting from us right now, and it's free that you can send to those partners to set up that value to ensure those renewals, to look like their best partner. If they, usually they're like, "Cool, this is cool. How'd you do this?" Which happened with you. Like you literally sent the email to your
Yeah,
client. I wasn't CC, and then
it was, like,
minutes later.
2 minutes later, she asked, she's like, "Oh, what's this? I wanna know more."
Yeah. So we got the intro. So hopefully that brand will close. And you'll get your commission. But yeah, so that is a benefit. Like we're happy again to talk with them, to talk them through like this is a way to think about it. And if they really do want to set up a campaign for sales, like if they were to come back to you and you ask how they're going to measure it and they say sales, but they're just asking you to do a couple posts, that's not a sales campaign. So you could always be like, maybe you should talk to the Autofluencer team. And we'll help them learn how to set it up if they really want a conversion campaign, how to set that up. So and there's
Uh-huh.
no charge for advice. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Megan, this was awesome. Thank you so much. Hoping more people will get on, start using the reporting, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a game changer, so yeah, this makes it so much easier, more efficient, so there's no excuse because it is free, so every racer needs to be on Autofluencer.
Love it. That's the soundbite.